Hello my friends and welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to show you how to do a very simple sewing alteration, and that is how to make your t-shirt smaller. So I want to make this sleeve not stick out like this, and I want to make it just a little bit smaller in the waist area. So I'm going to show you how I do this. It's really quick. We're just going to take this inside out and zip right down the side, and it's going to be super simple. So let's get started. Okay, so now we're going to fit the shirt and see how much we need to take out. So you're going to put your shirt on inside out, and you're going to need some pins. So I'm going to take my shirt in here at the seam, and I'm going to pinch it to where I'm happy with how tight it is around the arm. So I'd like it about like that. So I'm going to stick a pin in it. And yes, it's a little challenging to do by yourself, so you could get some help if you wanted to. But you can see this is the amount that I want to be taken out of the sleeve, so I'm just sticking a pin right here. Okay, then after you get the sleeve set, then you need to ask yourself if you're happy with how tight it is at the armpit, or if there needs to be some fabric removed from there. I'm pretty happy with how it fits at the armpit, so I'm going to take very little out here. So what we're doing is we're pinning, and what we're going to end up doing is we're going to sew just one line down each side. We're going to stitch here, get to the armpit seam and pivot, and then go down. So I'm only going to take very little from the armpit. So when you're doing this, you kind of want to pinch the back seam and the front seam together, because you want those lined up when you sew through those. So I'm putting my pins parallel to the seam just as like a marking for how much is going to be coming out. Down here at the hem, you want to decide if you want to take any out. I'm going to leave it. I'm happy with that amount of fittedness there, but I do want to take a little from the waist. So I'm going to, and we're going to do this from both sides. So just kind of do it at the same time so it gets gathered evenly on either side. We will come back through and make sure these are symmetrical, but just do that. And then I want it to fit right about there. So we'll just put some pins. And then coming up the same way. Okay, so you can see where the line is that I'm going to sew. I'm going to start here, I'm going to come down, I'm going to follow these pins, and then I'm just going to go off the edge. So let's pin this side too. Same thing. Make sure the seam on the front and the seam on the back are lined up when you stick that pin in there. It's already looking better. And you also want to try to avoid any weird rippling happening over here, like that's trying to do. So I'm going to take that one out. And always make sure that it's actually being folded along the seam. Don't ever allow it to get folded like weird like this and then start pinning over here. Make sure it's actually folded right and flat. or it'll come out all bunchy. So wherever it went off the edge on this side, we want it to be pretty much the same on the other side. And again, we will fix this up once we take it off, but just try to get it as close to symmetrical as you can right now. Okay, so then once you're happy with how it looks, you can take it off. Now we're going to look at our pins and make sure that they are pretty much even on either side. Also, if you want to use safety pins, it'd be easier to get this off. Okay, so I'm going to start at the sleeve up here, and I'm going to measure from the pin down to the end. Okay, so we've got a little over 1.5 inches there. Let's look on the other side. Okay, over here we've got about 1 inch. So we want to make these the same. So I'm going to make this one 1.25 inches. I'm going to make the other one 1.25 inches. And you can count that from this, where the stitch actually ends, or you can go all the way down, as long as you do the same thing on both sides. So what I'm going to do is make it actually, I'm going to make it 1.5 inches from the very bottom. Okay. And I'm going to make this one that too. Okay. And make sure they're lined up at the edges here. So this t-shirt was made such that the hem was done first and then the seam was done, but sometimes the hem is done after. So even when the hem is done after, a lot of times I do it like this if it's just for myself, but if it's for a customer, I would rip the hem up, fix it, cut it off, and then put the hem back down. Okay, so now they're both 1.5 inches from the bottom. So let's see how much I took out of the underarm here. From the very bottom up to the pin along that underarm seam is about 3/4 inch. Let's see the other side. About 3/4 inch. That's good. So that's pretty much what you'll expect. It'll be about the same, but sometimes you might just really have it stretched to one side, and we just don't want to sew it down like that. Alright, so then for this part, let's kind of just pick a distance down from a point that you can see. So here's a point. Let's say, what is it if we go 1 inch down from that point? Here's 1 inch down. How far in are we? About 3/4 inch. How about over here? If we go 1 inch down, well, there's no pin there, so 3/4 inch it is. So then what if we go down here to 1 inch? It's 1 inch in if we go down, say, 2 inches. So if we go over here, 2 inches down, pretty much there. I'll slide this over so it's about 1 inch. Okay, and I'll put this one over here. Let's be that 3/4 inch down, one inch down, 3/4 inch in. Okay, so what if we go 6 inches down? It's about 1.25 inches. Over here, 6 inches down. Over here we've got about 1.5 inches. So I'm going to make this one also 1.5 inches. Okay, what if we go 9 inches down? about an inch. Other side, 9 inches down, about an inch. Okay, and then let's see where we're at 12 inches down. So 12 inches down is going to be right before we taper off. It's going down to about 5/8 of an inch. And over here, 12 inches down. Okay, so on this side at 12 inches down, I had it already off the edge. So I'm just going to make the other side like that. So at 12 inches down, I'm going to move the pin all the way over here. Okay, so now everything looks pretty symmetrical, so we can go over to the sewing machine. So first you'll get your machine threaded up with a matching color in the top and in the bobbin. And then we're going to select a stretch stitch. So I'm going to go with this number 3 zigzag. So a zigzag is a stretch stitch that most machines have, and that will be just fine for the shirt. We have to do a stretch stitch though, because if we just do a straight stitch, it will pop sometimes when you try to put the shirt on. Okay, so we are going to start, I'm here at the sleeve. And we're going to start right here where this pin is. So I'll take the pin out of the way, and I'm going to start just a little bit in from the back. I'm not all the way at the back. So I'm going to start just a little bit in from the back. So my needle's right here, about a 1/2 inch in from the back of the fabric. So I'll start here, and then I'll do a reverse stitch all the way to the back, and then I'll go forward. And so if you wanted to draw a line or something for where you're stitching, you could, but I'm just going to aim towards the next pin. So I'm just going to start with a back stitch, and then I'm just going to orient my presser foot towards this pin and just drive straight to it. So I went backwards, and I'm going forwards, and I'm going to drive straight towards that pin. If there's a dramatic change here, you could drop your needle and pivot, but mine's pretty gradual, so I'm just going to keep going forward. Always make sure there's no ripples and everything's flat before you sew over it. Okay, now I'm coming to the end where I'm going to go off the edge. So I'm going to go there and stop, and then reverse just about 3 or 4 stitches to lock it in. Okay, that's one side. Now we'll do the other side, and I always just start with whatever side is going to make it so that my edge of my fabric is on the right. So sometimes I start up at the sleeve, sometimes I start down at the hem. Okay, so this time we're going to start where we go off the edge for that waist part. So I'm going to remove that and hold the spot with my finger, and I'm going to start in a little bit, back it up, and then go forward. So I'm going to start right here, put the presser foot down, now I'm going to reverse over to the edge, and now I'm going to go forward and just aim towards the next pin. Coming into the edge, make sure your raw edges are aligned here at the sleeve. I'm just going to hold that point that I'm aiming towards. Get all the way there, and back stitch. So here's what we have. You can see all the stitching here. So the next thing we're going to do is just take scissors and cut off that excess. And if you don't have a whole lot of excess, you don't have to cut it off. But if there is a good bit, like over an inch, it's probably going to cause some bulk. So I'm going to cut it out. Just right up against the zigzags, close to it, but definitely not too close to the stitches. Okay, that is it. We now have a fitting t-shirt. So I hope that you try this. I hope you enjoyed this video and it helped you. And if it did, go ahead and leave me a comment down below. Let me know how it went. Let me know if there's any other questions. And please give the video a like and subscribe to the channel for more. Thank you so much for watching and happy sewing!